ixesha lifikile. Unity.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, the President of the Black Business Council, Mr. Sandile Zungu, the Chairperson of the Black Business Council, Ms. Bridget Khadebe, ministers and deputy ministers who are here present tonight, leaders of various business organizations, as well as sporting organizations, ambassadors who have graced this occasion, our friends and colleagues from various other countries, but more especially from the DRC, colleagues who are involved in the formation of their government in the DRC. I recognize Mr. Francois Mwamba, who is a special envoy and senior advisor to President Tshisekedi, and those who are also with him. Friends from Kenya, Madame Jean Kamau, ambassadors from Ghana, Mr. George Bauteng, and indeed other ambassadors who are here with us tonight. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, I'm rather pleased that, Chairperson, you did not delegate me to be one of those who were sitting here as the panel to answer questions. I was in the Western Cape recently, and I was at an occasion where I was asked a number of questions. And one of those, and the questions have been mutating and asking a great deal of detail, one of those was about resurrection. So I felt afraid that if I had been put as one of the panelists, I may well have been asked about the dynamics of resurrection and how it happens and manifests itself. So thank you very much for not putting me on the panel. Chairperson, it's always a great privilege to be invited to speak at gatherings of the Black Business Council. It is so because within these walls are assembled the men and women who are the custodians of the proud tradition of courageous business leadership, courageous entrepreneurship. We look to the Business Council to provide leadership in our collective effort to build an inclusive economy, a growing economy, a fundamentally transformed economy. So if you were to ask me what the Business Council should be tumored on, what we should send you on, I would say precisely this, that we would like the Business Council and all its members to provide leadership so that they can also enthusiastically participate in the effort to build an inclusive economy. This, the members of the Black Business Council are eminently able to do because they are involved in the craft of building businesses, of building value from their various business operations. We meet at a critical moment for our country. We are emerging from a period of great difficulty and uncertainty. We are putting in place, as we move forward, the foundation for a sustained economic revival that will create jobs and accelerate economic growth. And as we move forward, focusing on this very important objective of boosting the economic fortunes of our country, we are restoring public confidence in our institutions and rebuilding the partnerships that are necessary to chart a new trajectory. President Zungu, I'm most interested in hearing your continuous refrain about the Black Business Council being in rebuilding mode and it refashioning itself. This, for me, has great resonance with where the country is. This is where our country is. We are rebuilding, we are refashioning ourselves, and this is a period of renewal. This is the period of the new dawn. And I am pleased to hear that the new dawn also resides here in the Black Business Council. That, to me, is music to my ears. That has to be so because, yes, all of us are in the process of restoring confidence, the confidence of our people once again in the various institutions that we are involved in. And at the center of all these efforts is the advancement of those amongst us who were and are still most severely and negatively affected by the policies of the past, particularly the exclusionary policies of the past apartheid regime. Our Constitution enjoins us to promote the advancement of those who were excluded from the mainstream of the economy through legislative and other measures designed to address the inequity that we were subjected to. We are committed to utilizing a variety of legislative and other measures, such as the broad-based Black economic empowerment policy, as well as hastening the pace through the enhanced mechanism of radical economic transformation. Black economic empowerment, to us, cannot be reduced to a set of codes or codes of good practice or to a commission or to a procurement policy. Black economic empowerment is the fundamental task of our time. It is precisely what we all need to focus on to take our country forward. It requires not only that we remove the barriers that for generations have kept Black South Africans from meaningful participation in the economy of their country, but also that we remove the structural, cultural, social, and other constraints that continue to constrain Black people's participation in the economy. And those constraints are still many. We need to identify them, focus on them, and obliterate them from existence so that all our people can participate meaningfully in the economy of their own country. And this has to be especially so for the women of our country, because they are still held back by a number of strictures. And growth will not be inclusive for as long as the women of our country, and let me add, another cohort, for as long as the youth of our country have fewer opportunities for employment, for skills development and advancement, and for as long as less likely to start a business. And these are the two groupings in our country that still have enormous challenges. Young people and women in our country, where they want to start a business, they have a plethora of obstacles, constraints, and this is what we must focus on and remove. President Zungu, I also appreciate the language that I am hearing here. And I'm told that this has been the recurring language throughout the summit, that you're talking about inclusive growth on an ongoing basis. And it is this that we need to focus on, because inclusive growth requires that we address the challenges that are faced by all our people, but another cohort which is also important is people who are disabled. People who are disabled, and a few days ago we held a presidential working group for disabled people, and they came and articulated their challenges, their problems, and I came to the conclusion that we will not be able to have inclusive growth for as long as persons with disabilities are prevented to acquire skills, are not able to find employment, are not able to compete on an equal footing with able-bodied counterpart South Africans. Now, we can ask ourselves, how many of our businesses here have had the courage to employ disabled people? We'll find that very few of our businesses have had the courage to employ disabled people. That is what disabled people have been telling us. So today, my call to all of us here is that let us extend a hand. We've got millions of South Africans who are disabled, and many of them are not able to get into various opportunities. Let us have the courage of our conscience to go out, seek them out, and employ them in our businesses. That is how we tumor you and ask you to do something worthwhile. As we focus on the work that we must do to undertake a variety of tasks, particularly the task of building an inclusive economy, our greatest preoccupation must be the creation of jobs. Creating jobs for the 9 million South Africans who are unemployed is without doubt the greatest contribution we can make to the advancement of radical economic transformation. Employment creation on a massive scale is the most effective, most durable, and most impactful form of broad-based Black economic empowerment that we could undertake. It is the platform on which all other interventions must be built. And some weeks ago, as one was pondering on this issue of unemployment, and I asked one of my staff members, I said, just go and find out how many companies do we have in South Africa? How many do we have? And they did a quick search, and they gave me a number, and I said, if all these companies could just additionally employ a young person, we would be able to halve the number of young people who are employed in our country. It is therefore essential that in the design of our policies, but also in the actions that we take, and in the development and implementation of our programs, we prioritize those measures that will create jobs and avoid any measures that will constrain job creation. We must prioritize measures that promote growth and in particular, your language again is Black Business Council Inclusive Growth. It is for that reason that we have focused our efforts in recent months in mobilizing far greater levels of investment in the productive economy in areas like manufacturing, agriculture, mining, as well as tourism. It is why we have set ourselves the ambitious target of being among the top 50 global performers in the World Bank's Doing Business report within the next three years. It is why we have moved towards policy certainty in areas like mining, in energy, telecommunications, and it is why we are also reforming our visa regime. In our engagements with social partners in preparation for the Job Summit, we agreed on the need to promote growth by increasing local demand for goods and services. Job creation requires a conducive environment and increased investments. It is this that led us to embark on an ambitious investment drive to mobilize 1.4 trillion rand from local and offshore investors in the next 5 years. A number of companies that attended our inaugural investment conference pledged 290 billion rand. Many skeptics were painfully negative in their analysis of these commitments. Yesterday, Minister Mantashe and I had occasion to witness the realization of just but one phase of this drive, where we visited a mining company in the Northern Cape, and my sister Daphne Nkosi was also there, and a number of other business leaders, I'm sure, who were also there, are present here. And we witnessed how one of those companies that attended our investment conference were telling us that the commitment that we made to invest a further $1 billion, having invested initially $400 million, is now going to be realized, and they are going to bring it here to South Africa in the Northern Cape and make sure that they plant a mine that is going to create more and more jobs. And many other companies that also made pledges are here. So, my brother Sandile Zungu, I'm used to this pledging business. You have got pledges to wipe out your deficit, your debt. We also have pledges to increase investment in our country. And when we hold our second investment conference later this year in October, we would like to see more and more of members of the Black Business Council coming forward and making those forward-looking pledges, however little the investment might well be, because it is through this that we demonstrate as South Africans our own confidence in our own economy. And that in itself generates a momentum which attracts further investments from outside South Africa. The 4 investment envoys that I appointed have been telling us that in order for us to generate more investments, they believe that outside investors want to see South Africans demonstrating a confidence in their own economy and investing here. So when we go to our conference in October, President Zungu, I would like to see as many members of the BBC coming forward, not for boasting purposes, not to show off, but to come and make a real sign of confidence in our country, in this new period that we are in this period of renewal and in this new dawn, so that we can firmly cement this new period of rebuilding our country, our economy, and giving our people hope. So I expect to see you there. Now, one of the things that we need to be doing as South Africans, and some of the people who spoke on the panel here, my sister Gloria Sirobe and my brother Gumede also spoke about it. We need to be boosting our manufacturing capability. We need to be producing goods as well as services. Now, recently, as we all know, we signed to the Africa Free Trade Agreement or area that is now going to create a huge market of 1.2 billion people and well over $1 trillion. Now, Africa is waiting. It's waiting for manufactured goods. It's waiting for the most industrialized country on the continent to start churning out goods and to start providing services. And it is for that reason that I welcome my brother Gumede's statement that we need to start looking beyond the borders of South Africa. We need to look how we can forge partnerships with our brothers and sisters in the DRC. They are partly here because they would like to partner with South Africa. We need to be partnering with our brothers and sisters in Kenya, in Ghana, and that is why partly they are also here to grace this occasion. And this is what is beckoning us. It is calling us to come and sell our goods. But we therefore need to focus on the real economy, and begin to produce goods that will be in great demand. And when you travel around the continent, they expect that black-led businesses from South Africa are going to be leading the charge. So there is a great expectation out there. They want to see black-led businesses, black-managed businesses, black-owned businesses bringing real business and new technology, new ways of doing business, but also investments as well as products. Now, as we have been trying to craft ways in which we can give our business people pathways, we've been focusing on a whole number of other areas. And because we believe that the buying patterns of both the state and the private sector should start gravitating more and more towards the goods that we are going to manufacture here. We need to boost our manufacturing, and that is why we have also embarked on a real massive industrialization program of also developing black industrialists. And one of the most important instruments we have at our disposal is the public procurement system, which has the potential to stimulate the local economy in terms of aggregate demand, production, innovation, technology transfer, research and development. Over 20 products have been designated for local production and content, ranging from rolling stock, rail rolling stock that is, to valves and pumps, from certain pharmaceutical products to furniture and a whole range of others. Now, these are products that we have designated where we believe that great business opportunities await entrepreneurs from our own country. Importantly, there have been improvements in the participation of black industrialists in the production of some of these products. And my sister Pilisile Mtetwa, through the NEF, have also been supporting quite a number of entrepreneurs and moving them and nudging them to go forward along the manufacturing route. Now, as we refine also in government our procurement policies, we will ensure that there are set asides for black industrialists and improve demand and market access as part of the localization program. That is what we want to do. And in the coming months, government will publish a new public procurement bill for public comment. This is going to provide an opportunity for government to further leverage public expenditure for growth, industrial development, and Black economic empowerment. This is a responsibility that does not fall to the state alone. It should also fall on the shoulders of Black business leaders. Now, as you know, we held a job summit recently, and the job summit agreement that we crafted has seen business committing to increasing the proportion of goods it procures locally. And this will require coordinated effort to develop supplier networks as well as support programs. There is huge potential for corporate South Africa, in particular, to nurture the emergence of a new generation of Black-owned businesses to meet their supply chain needs. And I must compliment quite a number of companies that have already gravitated and are moving in this direction. As we heard earlier, Coca-Cola has committed quite a lot of capital to do precisely that, and they are doing it in great effect. And we want to encourage more and more of our corporates to start moving in this direction so that we can get rid of the legacy of exclusionary policies that we inherited from the apartheid misrulers of this country. We will simultaneously expand our export capacity through industrial incentives, also through special economic zones and investment in rail and port infrastructure. We want to spread quite a number of special economic zones in our country, and I'd like Black business leaders to look at this very closely, because that offers great opportunities. It should not only be the preserve of foreign-owned companies who come to take up these opportunities, because there are quite a number of incentives, some tax breaks, and what have you. And all this has been put in place so that we can boost employment, but it also creates a wonderful opportunity for businesses, and we would like to say for entrepreneurs and Black-led businesses to enter that space. The last time we counted, we were going to have about 10, and maybe we're even going to increase them more exponentially. And some of these special zones are going to be product-focused. For instance, we are going to have some just focusing on clothing and textiles. And while we still have the AGOA agreement with the United States, this is an area where opportunities abound, where we can go in and do real business. So I invite you to look at these type of opportunities more closely, because they offer great, great chances for Black businesses. Now, the Black Industrialist Program is one of several instruments we are using to ensure that emerging Black business people are able both to benefit from and to contribute to the growth of our productive economy. Now, since the program began in 2016, over 130 Black industrialists have been financially supported. Now, I still see this as too little. I want this number to increase exponentially so that we have more and more Black industrialists. You know, when I go around the country, I often ask a number of business people in various provinces whether they are participating in this. And sometimes you find that they know about it, there's one or two, and I say, this is a great opportunity where Black people can get into the industrial sector. And in the end, you know, you can choose an area, a niche area, and be able to sell something in a big way. You remember last year we invited Jack Ma of Alibaba. And he said when they set up their platform for which enable entrepreneurs to trade on this platform. And he told a story that, a whole number of people started making things, manufacturing things, and so on. But he says one of them started selling mosquitoes, miniature dried up mosquitoes. He says this fellow would catch mosquitoes, dry them up, put them into some little instrument or so, or capsule, and he started selling mosquitoes online. And he says his business was just roaring. So he started having to catch a lot of mosquitoes. So what that shows is that the world out there is ready for products. And what we should do is to go and sell products. Maybe one day in my next life, I'll sell cockroaches. And people will be interested in buying cockroaches. So what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that our government in trying to address the constraints of the past is now opening up opportunities. And I'm sure some of you will say, well, we have tried, but we have not succeeded. And I always say, sometimes you've got to kiss many, many frogs before you find your princess. So you must never tire, and government often moves very slowly. So carry on kissing these frogs. You will one day find your princess. Sorry about that, my sister Tomato, for saying that. Now, many of the companies that are taking up these opportunities also face a number of constraints. Some of them are high barriers to entry, limited market capacity, saturated markets, high transaction costs, and poor market research. And in response, government has assisted more than 100 of these industrialists with access to opportunities in the public and the private sector. Now, building on the success of this program, efforts are now underway to expand it beyond manufacturing, using the same principles in sectors such as construction, property, tourism, mining, as well as agriculture. As these and other black-owned companies succeed, there is an expectation that they will support the emergence of new black companies, that they will create employment, that they will contribute their due to the public fiscus, and that they will be good corporate citizens as well. Now, the development of our industrial capacity to satisfy both increased local demand and greater exports is dependent on uninterrupted supply of electricity. Now, the crisis at Eskom has now been made painfully apparent to every South African, and there can be no doubt that bold and decisive action is required to restore the performance of the utility. Now, following the various announcements that we have made regarding the restructuring of Eskom and paying attention to the challenges that it faces regarding its performance, we are informed that S&P, having recognized all these various initiatives, has revised its outlook for Eskom from negative to stable. Now, they've kept Eskom. That's very important, because we had expected that they would even drop us further, but they've kept Eskom still at the junk status, but this gives us a breather to be able to attend to the key challenges that we are facing going forward. Now, as indicated in the State of the Nation address, we are taking urgent measures to stabilize the generation of electricity and address Eskom's dire financial position. And when we say Eskom's dire financial position, we mean it earnestly, because for any business to be so deeply indebted to the tune of 450 billion rand with very, very poor collection of revenue means that you are facing a calamity. Now, it is this that we are seeking to address, and the measures that we are taking are not ideologically driven. The measures we are taking are not driven to try and achieve other ends. They are driven solely by a desire to make sure that our electricity company continues to supply electricity to South Africans and to keep our economy going. Now, the Minister of Finance made his own announcement during his budget speech, and we are now proceeding to implement the various restructuring process. Now, the real effect of how these load shedding episodes actually cause to the economy is quite huge, and many of you experience it in the various companies that you run. When we were in the Northern Cape recently, or just yesterday, the company that we had visited, Vedanta, told us that once there is load shedding, it has a really negative impact on their business. And it is this that we want to forestall. It is this that we want to bring to an end, so that in the end, our electricity supply process is seamless. It should be the type that is going to support the various businesses that you are running. Now, we have begun a process of talking to the various stakeholders, labor and a whole number of others, and we believe that we will be able to reach an accommodation. And one of the greatest concerns that people have, of course, is the security of jobs, and we need to address those. And some of the power stations that we have are aging power stations, which is going to create another huge problem for us in the various towns, in the coal towns in our country, and that's where we want to begin to look at just transitions, so that our people should not be left in the dark or in the lurch. Alongside the task of creating jobs and the support for the emergence of black-owned companies, the most effective form of broad-based black economic empowerment is education and skills development. It is in education where the concept of once empowered and always empowered can really find great resonance. Because once you empower somebody with an education, that person is forever empowered throughout their lives.